The information provided in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. We are not licensed insurance adjusters, legal professionals, or certified automotive technicians. Vehicle repair costs, insurance claim payouts, and repair methodologies can vary significantly based on your specific location, vehicle make and model, insurance policy language, and the severity of a storm. This content does not constitute professional financial, legal, or insurance advice. Always consult with a qualified professional and conduct your own due diligence before making decisions regarding vehicle repairs or insurance claims. Imagine waking up to a sound that mimics 1,000 hammers hitting your roof at once. You look out the window to see ice stones the size of golf balls, or even baseballs obliterating your neighborhood. You think about your car, that $60,000 investment sitting in the driveway, and your heart sinks. But here is the reality that most Americans don't realize until it is too late. The physical damage to the metal is often the least of your worries. The real catastrophe happens in the days following the storm, when a lack of knowledge can cost you thousands of dollars in diminished value, botched repairs, and insurance claims that are closed far below their actual worth. In some states, a single hailstorm can generate over $1 billion in insurance claims in less than 30 minutes, yet a staggering percentage of vehicle owners leave money on the table or unknowingly void their factory paint warranties. Today, we are opening the book on the industry secrets that body shops and insurance carriers don't always volunteer. We are diving into why a $2,000 estimate might actually be a $10,000 nightmare in disguise. This is the definitive masterclass on understanding vehicle hail damage repair costs in America. By the time we finish this 10-part series, you will understand the intricate mechanics of paintless dent repair, how to navigate the complex language of insurance supplements, and how to ensure your vehicle regains its full market value. Whether you are a car enthusiast protecting a classic or a daily commuter trying to save your primary mode of transportation, the insights shared here are designed to prevent you from becoming another statistic in the aftermath of a catastrophic weather event. To truly understand the cost of hail repair, we have to look at the historical trends of storm severity in the United States. Over the last decade, we have seen a shift in what the industry calls Hail Alley. While regions like Texas, Nebraska, and Kansas remain hotspots, we are seeing increasingly volatile weather patterns in the Midwest and even the Southeast. According to historical data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, there are over 5,000 large hail reports annually across the country. This isn't just a weather problem. It is a massive economic engine. When a major storm hits a metropolitan area like Dallas-Fort Worth or Denver, it creates an immediate supply and demand vacuum. Local body shops are instantly booked for 6 months, and storm chasers, or mobile repair units, flood the city. This surge in demand directly impacts the cost of labor and the availability of parts, creating a fluctuating price environment that most consumers are unprepared for. Let's break down the actual physics of the damage, because this is where the cost begins. A hailstone hitting a vehicle at terminal velocity creates a unique type of deformation. Unlike a collision where metal is crushed or torn, hail creates thousands of micropoints of tension. Each dent is a stretch in the metal. If the stone is large enough or moving fast enough, it can actually stretch the metal beyond its elastic limit. If that happens, the cost of repair skyrockets because the metal can no longer be massaged back into its original shape. It must be replaced or filled and painted. The difference between a simple dent and a stretched metal event can be the difference between a $500 repair and a $3,000 hood replacement. We also have to consider the complexity of modern American vehicles. 20 years ago, a car was largely steel and glass. Today, your vehicle is a rolling computer. If hail strikes the roof of a modern SUV, it isn't just hitting a sheet of metal. It is potentially damaging the sunroof mechanics, the shark fin antenna which houses GPS and cellular components, and the sensitive ADAS or Advanced Driver Assistance System sensors. If a hailstone cracks a windshield on a car equipped with lane departure warnings, you aren't just paying for a $300 piece of glass. You are paying for a specialized OEM windshield and the subsequent recalibration of the camera system, which can easily add another $500 to $1,000 to the bill. This is a cost factor that many initial insurance estimates completely overlook. Case studies from recent storms in Colorado have shown that initial field estimates provided by insurance companies are, on average, 30 to 40% lower than the final repair bill. This isn't necessarily due to bad intent, but rather the environment in which the initial estimate is written. Often, an adjuster is looking at a car in a driveway, perhaps under a tree or in overcast lighting. They see 30 dents. However, When that same car is placed under specialized high-intensity PDR lights in a controlled shop environment, those 30 dents often turn into 80 or 100. Since most repair costs are calculated on a per-dent basis, the cost of the repair doubles before a single tool has even touched the car. Understanding the matrix is the next step in mastering these costs. In the PDR industry, there is a standardized pricing matrix used to determine the price of a repair based on the size of the dent and the number of dents per panel. These sizes are typically categorized by coins: dime-sized, nickel-sized, quarter-sized, and half-dollar-sized. A panel with 10 dime-sized dents is priced significantly differently than a panel with 5 half-dollar-sized dents. Furthermore, the material of the panel plays a massive role. In an effort to improve fuel efficiency, many American manufacturers have shifted from steel to aluminum panels. Aluminum is lighter, but it has no memory like steel does. It is much harder to work with and requires specialized tools and a higher level of technician expertise. Consequently, most shops apply a 25 to 50% aluminum markup on the labor. If you drive a Ford F-150 or many modern Teslas, your hail repair costs are automatically higher simply because of the metallurgy of your vehicle. Then there is the factor of R&I, or remove and install. To properly repair hail damage, especially on the roof, technicians must often drop the interior headliner, remove side curtain airbags, take off door handles, and strip the trim. This labor is billed by the hour and can account for a significant portion of the total cost. If you have a vehicle with a complex interior or high-end luxury trim, the R&I time alone can reach 15 to 20 hours of labor. At a shop rate of $125 per hour, you are looking at nearly $2,500 in labor before the dents are even addressed. We must also talk about the total loss threshold. In many states, if the cost of repair reaches a certain percentage of the vehicle's actual cash value, often between 65 and 80%, the insurance company will declare the vehicle a total loss. With the rising costs of labor and the complexity of modern parts, it is becoming increasingly common for vehicles that look perfectly drivable to be totaled by hail damage. Understanding how to calculate this threshold and how to negotiate the valuation of your vehicle is a critical skill for any owner facing a major storm. In the segments to come, we will deconstruct the exact math behind these matrices, show you how to identify a storm chaser versus a master technician, and explain why the cheapest quote is almost always the most expensive mistake you can make. We are going to look at how to read an insurance estimate like a pro, so you can spot the missing line items that the adjuster forgot to include. This is about more than just fixing dents. It is about protecting one of your most significant financial assets from the hidden costs of the American climate. Imagine a 2026 Ford F-150 Lightning owner named Michael in suburban Dallas. After a 20-minute storm with hail the size of golf balls, Michael looks at his aluminum-bodied truck and sees what looks like a golf ball's texture across his hood and roof. He calls his insurance and they send him to a local drive-through claims center. The adjuster spends 5 minutes walking around the truck in the bright Texas sun, writes a quick estimate for $2,800, and tells Michael he can take the check or go to a preferred shop. Michael thinks he is ahead of the game until he arrives at a specialized paintless dent repair facility. The technician there pulls the truck into a dark bay, turns on a series of high-intensity LED light boards, and suddenly, the 20 dents the adjuster saw transform into 142 distinct points of impact. This is the moment Michael realizes the true complexity of the PDR matrix. The PDR matrix is the holy grail of hail repair pricing in the United States. It is a standardized grid that calculates cost based on the size of the dent and the number of dents per panel. In 2026, with inflation and the rising cost of specialized labor, these matrices have become more rigid and more expensive. For instance, a single panel with 1 to 5 dime-sized dents might cost $150. However, if that panel has 30 to 50 dents of the same size, the price jumps to $500 or more. The complexity scales exponentially because as the density of dents increases, the metal becomes more unstable. If you have 2 dents overlapping or very close to one another, the technician cannot simply push one out. They have to manage the tension of the surrounding metal to prevent a high spot or a crack in the paint. Size is the next critical variable in this mathematical equation. Technicians use a specialized coin size reference. A dime-sized dent is the baseline. A nickel-sized dent often carries a 20-cent premium per dent. Once you reach quarter-sized or half-dollar-sized impacts, you are dealing with significant metal displacement. In Michael's case, the adjuster missed the larger stretched dents near the edges of the hood. A stretch dent is one where the hailstone has pushed the metal beyond its elastic limit. When metal is stretched, it is like a piece of chewing gum that has been pulled too far. It cannot simply return to its original flat state. In these cases, the matrix pricing often fails, and the repair enters the realm of an oversized dent or a panel replacement. An oversized dent can cost $500 for a single impact because it requires a master technician to heat the metal and use specialized shrinking techniques to restore the structural integrity without ruining the factory finish. Now, let's talk about the metallurgy factor, which is perhaps the biggest hidden cost driver in 2026. For decades, American cars were made of mild steel. Steel has a memory. It wants to go back to its original shape. But to meet stringent fuel economy standards, manufacturers like Ford, Audi, and Tesla have moved heavily toward aluminum. Aluminum is a completely different beast. It is stiffer, less elastic, and lacks the magnetic properties that some older PDR tools relied on. When a hailstone hits aluminum, it doesn't just dent, it resists. Repairing a dent in an aluminum hood requires twice as much force and much more precise tool control than steel. This is why almost every reputable shop in America applies an aluminum markup. Historically, this trend shows a 30% to 50% increase in labor costs for aluminum panels. If Michael's F-150 were an older steel model, his repair might be $8,000. Because it is aluminum, that same level of damage could easily reach $12,000. Beyond the metal itself, we have to account for the structural accessibility of the dents. This brings us to the R&I or remove and install process. Imagine if Michael's truck has a panoramic sunroof. To fix the roof dents, a technician cannot just reach through the metal. They have to go inside the cabin. They must carefully remove the A-pillar, B-pillar, and C-pillar trim pieces. They have to disconnect the overhead console, the grab handles, and the sun visors. Then they have to lower the headliner without creasing it. In 2026, many of these headliners are integrated with side curtain airbags and sophisticated wiring harnesses for 5G connectivity and internal cameras. One wrong move and a technician can trigger an airbag or snap a fiber optic cable. This labor is billed separately from the dent repair. In a deep dive case study of a high-end SUV, the R&I labor alone accounted for 22% of the total invoice. If an insurance adjuster leaves off the R&I time for a headliner, they are essentially shortchanging the repair by nearly $1,000 in labor. Furthermore, we must look at the impact of ADAS, or Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. If a hailstone cracks a windshield or even severely dents a roof near the forward-looking camera housing, the vehicle's safety systems are compromised. Many 2026 models require a dynamic or static calibration after any major repair involving the removal of glass or structural trim. If the shop has to remove the side mirrors to access door dents, and those mirrors house 360-degree cameras, those cameras must be recalibrated. This is not a simple task. It requires specialized software and a controlled environment. The cost of a single ADAS calibration can range from $300 to $800. This is a non-negotiable safety item that is frequently omitted from initial quick estimates. Yet it is vital for the potential outcomes of your vehicle's safety performance on the road. Step by step, the cost accumulation looks like this. First, the basic matrix price for the number and size of dents. Second, the metallurgy surcharge for aluminum or high-strength steel. Third, the R&I labor for interior and exterior components like mirrors, moldings, and headliners. Fourth, the specialized labor for oversized or stretched dents. Fifth, the replacement of non-reparable parts like belt moldings, which are the rubber and chrome strips at the base of your windows that almost always get destroyed in a hailstorm. Sixth, the glass replacement and subsequent recalibration of safety sensors. When you add these layers together, you begin to see why that initial $2,800 check Michael received was practically useless. There is also the regional labor rate to consider. In the United States, labor rates for specialized PDR vary wildly. In a rural area, you might see $60 an hour. In a tech-heavy hub like San Francisco or a storm-ravaged metro like Denver, shop rates can exceed $150 an hour. When a catastrophic storm hits, insurance companies often try to use a prevailing competitive rate, which might be based on standard collision shops, not specialized PDR facilities. This creates a gap that the consumer is often expected to pay out of pocket, unless they know how to demand a supplement. As Michael stands in the shop, he realizes he is not just fighting for a clean car. He is fighting to maintain his truck's resale value. A car with a history of hail damage that was repaired poorly with body filler, and a cheap respray will have a significantly lower market value than one repaired via high-end PDR that preserved the factory paint. Historical trends in the used car market show that vehicles with original factory paint commands a 15 to 20% premium over those with reported paint work. This brings us to the most controversial part of the hail repair world: the insurance supplement. The initial estimate is almost never the final word. It is merely a starting point for a negotiation that most people don't even know they are allowed to have. But how do you actually win that negotiation without getting stuck in a 3-month legal battle? And what happens when the insurance company says your car is totaled, even though you can still drive it? The answers lie in the fine print of your policy and the hidden tactics of the supplement process. In the next segment, we are going to pull back the curtain on the supplement game. We will show you the exact photos and documentation you need to force an insurance company to pay the true cost of repair. And we will reveal why your choice of a repair shop is the most important financial decision you will make this year. Michael's journey is just beginning, and the stakes are about to get much higher as we look at the difference between a preferred shop and an independent advocate. Do you know who your shop is really working for? You might be surprised to find out it isn't you. Imagine a homeowner in Omaha named Sarah. It is June 2026, and a massive supercell has just peppered her 3-year-old electric SUV with 2-inch hail. Sarah calls her insurance company, and the first thing the agent says is, "We have a list of preferred shops in your area that can get you in right away." It sounds like a relief. It sounds like a shortcut through the chaos of a catastrophe. But what Sarah doesn't see is the contractual agreement sitting behind the scenes between that preferred shop and the insurance carrier. This is what the industry calls a direct repair program, or DRP. In these programs, the shop often agrees to lower labor rates, discounts on parts, and shorter repair times in exchange for a steady stream of referrals from the insurance company. While this can streamline the process, it creates a potential conflict of interest. Is the shop working for Sarah to ensure her vehicle is restored to pre-storm condition, or are they working for the insurance company to keep the claim cost as low as possible? Historical trends in the automotive repair industry show that independent shops, those not beholden to a DRP, often write estimates that are significantly higher than preferred shops for the exact same vehicle damage. This isn't because they are overcharging, it is because they are accounting for every single clip, every ADAS recalibration, and every hour of R&I labor that a preferred shop might be pressured to overlook or absorb. For Sarah, choosing an independent advocate means having a shop that is willing to fight for a supplement. A supplement is essentially a secondary claim filed after the initial estimate when additional damage or costs are discovered during the teardown process. In 2026, supplements are not the exception, they are the rule. If your initial estimate is $5,000 and the final bill is $9,000, that $4,000 gap is the supplement. Let's look at the step-by-step reality of the supplement process through Sarah's experience. Her SUV is dropped off at an independent PDR specialist. The first thing they do is a blue light inspection. They use specialized LED lights that create a grid pattern on the car's surface. Any distortion in the grid lines reveals a dent, even those invisible to the naked eye. They document every single impact with high-resolution photography. Next, they perform a pre-repair diagnostic scan. In 2026, every vehicle has a complex communication network called a CAN bus. Hailstones hitting the roof can vibrate sensors or damage the delicate wiring for the shark fin antenna or sunroof motors. The scan reveals hidden fault codes that an insurance adjuster's visual inspection would never catch. The shop then creates a detailed line item estimate that includes things like the cost of replacing one-time use trim clips. Many modern American vehicles use plastic clips to hold moldings and interior panels in place. Once these clips are popped out during the R&I process, they lose their structural integrity and, according to manufacturer guidelines, must be replaced. A single clip might only cost $5, but an SUV can have 50 of them. That is $250 in parts that a preferred shop might just reuse to save the insurance company money, leading to rattles and loose trim down the road. Sarah's independent shop includes these clips, the labor for the scan, the aluminum markup for her vehicle's hood, and the high-intensity light time. The insurance company's reaction to a supplement is often a point of friction. They may send a re-inspector out to the shop to verify the additional damage. This is where the documentation becomes a legal and financial shield. In a case study from a 2025 storm in St. Louis, a shop was able to secure an additional $3,000 for a client simply by providing thermal imaging of the roof panels, proving that the hail impacts had caused microfractures in the composite material that a standard visual inspection missed. This level of detail is what separates a standard repair from a masterclass restoration. But there is another layer to the cost that most Americans ignore: diminished value. Imagine Sarah decides to sell her SUV 2 years later. The Carfax report shows a $10,000 hail repair. Even if the repair was flawless, a potential buyer will likely offer less than they would for a car with a clean history. This is the loss in market value that occurs simply because a vehicle has a significant repair history. In many states, you can file a diminished value claim against your own insurance policy or a third party, depending on the circumstances and state law. However, insurance companies rarely volunteer this information. The cost of hail isn't just the bill from the shop. It is the invisible check you write when you eventually trade the vehicle in. For a $40,000 vehicle, the diminished value after a major hail claim can range from $2,000 to $5,000. The stakes get even higher when we talk about the total loss formula. In 2026, with the average price of a new car hovering around $50,000, the threshold for totaling a vehicle is a moving target. Most insurance companies use a total loss formula. If the cost of repair plus the salvage value exceeds the actual cash value of the car, it is totaled. Salvage value for modern EVs and high-end trucks has skyrocketed because the batteries and specialized components are worth a fortune on the secondary market. This means your car is more likely to be totaled today than it was 5 years ago. Imagine if Sarah's SUV is valued at $45,000. The hail damage is estimated at $15,000. On the surface, that seems fine. But if the salvage value of her battery pack and motors is $25,000, the insurance company sees a $40,000 recovery by totaling the car versus a $15,000 loss by repairing it. They might push to total the vehicle. If Sarah has a low interest rate on her current auto loan, or if she cannot find a replacement vehicle due to supply chain ripples, being totaled could be a financial disaster. This is where the concept of a total loss retention comes in. In many cases, Sarah has the right to keep her totaled vehicle, receive a payout minus the salvage value, and then use that money to repair the car herself. However, this comes with a huge caveat. The vehicle will likely receive a salvage or rebuilt title. This significantly impacts the future potential outcomes of her insurance coverage and resaleability. Most lenders will not finance a vehicle with a rebuilt title, and some insurance companies will only offer liability coverage, not comprehensive or collision. Step by step, the negotiation for a total loss involves: first, getting an independent appraisal of the vehicle's actual cash value, ensuring the insurance company is accounting for every feature and the current local market demand. Second, reviewing the salvage bid to ensure it is realistic. Third, deciding if the cost of a rebuilt title is worth the utility of keeping the car. As Sarah navigates this, she realizes that the person she chooses to handle the repair is her most important ally. A shop that understands the nuances of 2026 vehicle technology and insurance law can mean the difference between a total loss and a perfectly restored vehicle. But what happens when the damage is so severe that PDR isn't an option? What if the hail was so large it actually broke the paint or cracked the carbon fiber? We are moving into the realm of conventional repair versus PDR, and the costs are about to double. We will look at why a traditional body shop's approach of sanding, filling, and painting can actually devalue your car more than the hail itself. And we'll reveal the secret of the push-to-paint method that the best shops use to save vehicles that look like they belong in a scrap yard. Are you prepared for the bill when the ice is the size of a grapefruit? The numbers we are about to discuss will change the way you look at a storm cloud forever. Imagine a classic car collector in Scottsdale named James. It is 2026, and James has spent years maintaining the pristine factory finish on his 2019 Corvette ZR1. When a sudden monsoon drops grapefruit-sized ice across the valley, the damage to the Corvette isn't just a series of dents. The hail has moved with such velocity that it has physically cracked the clear coat and fractured the carbon fiber panels. This is where the world of paintless dent repair reaches its limit, and the high-stakes world of conventional repair begins. For James, the choice between PDR and conventional isn't just about cost. It is about the structural and aesthetic integrity of a six-figure asset. Conventional repair is the traditional method most people think of when they hear body shop. It involves sanding the damaged area down to the substrate, using body filler, often referred to as Bondo, to level the surface, and then primer, base coat, and clear coat to finish. In the context of hail, this is a massive undertaking. If a hood has 50 dents and the paint is cracked, A traditional shop will sand the entire hood. This removes the factory E-coat, which is the specialized anti-corrosion layer applied at the factory through an electrochemical process. Once that E-coat is gone, the vehicle is more susceptible to rust and oxidation over the next decade. Historical trends show that vehicles with extensive conventional hail repairs often see paint failure or mapping 5 to 7 years down the line, where the outlines of the old dents become visible under the new paint. The cost difference is staggering. While a master PDR technician might charge $4,000 to massage the dents out of a roof, a conventional shop might charge $8,000 for the same panel because of the materials and labor hours involved in the painting process. In 2026, the cost of automotive paint has surged. A pint of high-quality metallic or pearl effect base coat can cost upwards of $300. When you factor in the clear coat, the hardeners, the reducers, and the spray booth time, which is often billed at $100 per hour, the material bill alone for a full hail job can exceed $3,000. Let's look at a case study of a pearl white Cadillac Escalade damaged in a 2026 storm in Atlanta. Because the paint was a 3-stage process involving a base coat, a mid-coat pearl, and a clear coat, the labor to blend the paint was immense. In the automotive world, you rarely just paint the damaged panel. To ensure the color matches the rest of the vehicle, the painter must blend the color into the adjacent panels. If the roof is damaged, they may need to blend into the tops of the fenders and the rear quarters. Suddenly, a roof repair involves painting half the vehicle. The labor hours for this Cadillac climbed to 60 hours. At a 2026 average conventional labor rate of $65 per hour, plus paint and materials at $45 per paint hour, the total reached $14,000. However, there is a middle ground that elite shops use called push-to-paint. Imagine if James's Corvette had dents that were too deep for standard PDR, but he wanted to avoid heavy body filler. A PDR technician uses their specialized tools to push the metal back as close to flat as possible, often within 95% of the original shape. This minimizes the amount of filler needed. Instead of a thick layer of Bondo, the body shop only needs a skim coat of glazing putty before painting. This hybrid method preserves the structural integrity of the metal and leads to a much more durable repair. Case studies indicate that push-to-paint is becoming the preferred method for high-end American vehicles in 2026 because it combines the precision of PDR with the finish of a fresh spray. But what about the panels that cannot be saved? Modern vehicles are increasingly using composite materials and ultra-high-strength steels that cannot be safely massaged back to shape. On James's Corvette, the carbon fiber hood is a prime example. Carbon fiber doesn't dent. It delaminates or cracks. If a hailstone fractures the resin matrix of a carbon fiber panel, PDR is impossible. The panel must be replaced. In 2026, an OEM carbon fiber hood for a performance vehicle can cost $7,000 before it even hits the paint booth. If your vehicle has a panoramic glass roof, which is standard on many new EVs, a single hailstone can shatter the entire assembly. Replacing a panoramic roof is a logistical nightmare that involves removing the entire interior and using specialized structural adhesives. The cost for a panoramic roof replacement in 2026 typically starts at $3,500 and can go as high as $6,000 depending on the calibration requirements for the integrated sensors. This leads us to a critical step-by-step breakdown of how to evaluate a repair quote that includes panel replacement. First, you must check if the shop is using OEM or aftermarket parts. OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer, parts made by the company that built your car. Aftermarket parts are made by third parties. While insurance companies love aftermarket parts because they are cheaper, they often lack the same fit and finish. In a hail repair, an aftermarket hood might have slightly different gaps than the original fenders, which is a tell to any future buyer that the car has been in a major accident. Second, you must ensure the quote includes seam sealer and corrosion protection. When a new panel is welded or bolted on, the factory seals are broken. If the shop doesn't meticulously recreate these seals, your car will eventually leak or rust. Now, imagine the scenario where the hail is so large it breaks the belt moldings and applique pieces. These are the trim parts around your windows and the plastic covers on your door pillars. In a major storm, these are usually the first things to go. Many adjusters will write these off as cosmetic, but in reality, they are functional. If a belt molding is cracked, water can seep into the door cavity, damaging the power window motors and the speakers. In 2026, these trim pieces are often one-time use, meaning they cannot be removed and reinstalled. A full set of moldings for a modern truck can add $1,500 to the repair bill. The financial potential outcomes of choosing conventional over PDR are significant. If you choose a conventional repair when PDR was an option, you have essentially branded the car's paint history. When a dealer uses a paint depth gauge during a trade-in appraisal, they will see that the paint is twice as thick as the factory intended. This immediately flags the car as having had bodywork, which can lead to a lower trade-in offer. PDR, conversely, is invisible to a paint depth gauge because no new material is added. As James looks at the estimate for his Corvette, he sees a line item for paint prep and masking. This is the labor for the hours spent covering the rest of the car in plastic and tape so that overspray doesn't get on the wheels, interior, or engine bay. In 2026, the complexity of vehicle shapes means masking takes longer than ever. If a shop rushes this step, you will find tiny dots of white paint on your black rubber trim or your leather seats. This is why the cleanliness of a shop is often a better indicator of quality than the price. We have now covered the physics of the dent, the math of the matrix, the politics of the insurance supplement, and the high-tech reality of conventional repair. But there is one final terrifying variable that can ruin even the best-laid plans: the storm chaser. In the wake of a billion-dollar storm, hundreds of pop-up shops appear overnight in parking lots and abandoned warehouses. They offer to pay your deductible and promise a one-week turnaround. But what they don't tell you is how they are cutting corners to make that math work. In the next part, we are going to expose the predatory tactics of the hail scams and show you the 3 questions that will make a fraudulent contractor run for the hills. We will also reveal the deductible waiving trap that could lead to your insurance claim being denied for fraud. Do you know how to spot a shop that is planning to vanish before your paint starts to peel? You are about to find out exactly how the shady side of the industry operates. Imagine a driver in Austin, Texas, named Robert. It is July 2026, and a series of massive storms has just swept through the hill country, leaving thousands of vehicles looking like the surface of the moon. Robert is at a local car wash, surveying the damage to his electric SUV, when a man in a professional-looking polo shirt approaches him. The man hands Robert a card for a shop that has just opened up in a nearby industrial park. He tells Robert, "We can get you in tomorrow, we handle the whole claim, and most importantly, we will waive your $1,000 deductible. You won't pay a cent out of pocket." For Robert, who is already feeling the pinch of 2026 inflation, this sounds like a lifeline. But this is the exact moment the trap is set. This is the entrance to the world of the storm chaser. A storm chaser is a mobile repair operation that follows catastrophic weather events across the United States. They are the nomads of the automotive world, moving from Texas to Colorado to Minnesota as the hail season progresses. While not every mobile technician is predatory, the historical trends in the industry show a recurring pattern of pop-up shops that prioritize volume over quality and utilize financial maneuvers that can leave the vehicle owner in a legal and technical nightmare. The promise to waive a deductible is the most common red flag, and in 2026, it is more dangerous than ever due to shifting insurance regulations and advanced fraud detection. To understand why waiving a deductible is a problem, you have to understand the math of the insurance contract. Your deductible is the portion of the risk you agreed to retain in exchange for a lower premium. If you have a $1,000 deductible and the repair costs $5,000, the insurance company is only responsible for $4,000. For a shop to waive that $1,000, they have to find that money somewhere. There are only 2 ways this happens. The first is through estimate inflation. The shop tells the insurance company that the car has more dents than it actually does, or they bill for labor and parts that they never actually perform or install. In many states, this is classified as insurance fraud. If the insurance company's 2026 AI-driven audit software flags the estimate as significantly higher than the regional average for that specific vehicle, the claim can be flagged for investigation. Robert could find his entire claim denied, or worse, be held liable for the fraudulent information submitted in his name. The second way a shop waives a deductible is by cutting corners on the repair itself. If the shop cannot successfully inflate the estimate, they simply do $4,000 worth of work for a $5,000 price tag. This usually manifests as the drill and fill technique. In a proper paintless dent repair, a technician spends hours removing interior panels to gain access to the back of the metal. A storm chaser, looking to move the car through the bay in 4 hours instead of 4 days, might simply drill a hole in the door jamb or the inner structure of the hood. They stick their tool through the hole, pop the dents out quickly without fine-tuning them, and then cover the hole with a cheap plastic plug. This destroys the structural integrity of the panel, creates an immediate entry point for moisture and rust, and in 2026, often voids the manufacturer's structural warranty. When Robert goes to sell his SUV 2 years later, a savvy inspector will see those plastic plugs and immediately devalue the vehicle by thousands of dollars, far exceeding the $1,000 he saved on his deductible. Another predatory tactic is the assignment of benefits or AOB. In this scenario, the shop asks the owner to sign a document that gives the shop the right to stand in the owner's shoes regarding the insurance claim. This means the shop deals directly with the insurance carrier and receives the checks directly. While this sounds convenient, it strips the owner of control. Case studies from recent years show that some shops use this power to file lawsuits against insurance companies without the owner's knowledge. If the insurance company refuses to pay an inflated bill, the shop can sue. If the shop loses or the legal fees mount up, the shop may place a mechanic's lien on the vehicle. Robert could wake up one morning to find that he cannot legally sell or even drive his car, because a shop he used for 3 days has a legal claim against the title. In 2026, insurance companies have fought back against these tactics by using digital twin technology. When a claim is filed, the adjuster uses a high-resolution camera to create a 3D map of the vehicle's damage. This map is stored in a database. If the shop submits a supplement with a new set of photos showing twice as many dents, the AI compares the two. If the dents don't align with the original atmospheric data of the storm or the original photos, the shop is blacklisted. If Robert is using a blacklisted shop, his repair could be stalled for months as the insurance company demands a physical inspection by a special investigations unit. So, how do you vet a shop in this high-stakes environment? You must ask 3 specific questions that will make a fraudulent operator uncomfortable. First, can you provide a copy of your local business license and proof that you have been operating at this physical location for more than 12 months? A storm chaser usually operates out of a short-term lease warehouse. If they can't prove they were there before the storm, they likely won't be there 6 months after the storm when your paint starts to fail. Second, will you provide a written transferable warranty that is backed by a local physical address? A warranty is useless if the shop has moved to another state. Third, do you utilize the push-to-paint method or the drill and fill method? If they even mention drilling, you should take your keys and leave immediately. Imagine Robert ignores these warnings. He leaves his SUV with the pop-up shop. They finish the job in 48 hours. First glance, it looks okay. But 3 months later, under the harsh Texas sun, the metal begins to oil can. This happens when a technician overpushes a dent, stretching the metal so much that it loses its tension. The dent pops in and out like the bottom of an oil can whenever the temperature changes. Robert drives back to the industrial park, only to find the warehouse is now a carpet liquidator. The shop is gone. The man in the polo shirt is in Nebraska. Robert is left with a vehicle that has ghost dents, drilled holes in the frame, and a potential fraud flag on his insurance history. The cost of hail repair in America is not just a line item on an estimate. It is a complex negotiation of ethics, engineering, and insurance law. We have seen how the PDR matrix works and how the metallurgy of modern cars drives labor costs. We have explored how the supplement game is played, and why the choice of a shop is the most critical factor in preserving your vehicle's value. But what happens when the math simply doesn't add up? What happens when the insurance company decides that your beloved vehicle is worth more as a pile of parts than as a restored machine? In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to dive into the heart of the total loss disaster. We will look at why 2020 SAXS high salvage values are causing insurance companies to total cars that are perfectly reparable. We will show you how to challenge a lowball valuation and what right of appraisal means for your bank account. If you think your car is safe because it only has cosmetic damage, you are in for a shock. The secret numbers that the insurance companies use to pull the plug on your car are about to be revealed. Imagine a middle-aged professional in Denver named David. It is late August 2026, and David is standing in his driveway looking at his 2024 luxury pickup truck. The truck has about 4,000 miles on it, and while the hood and roof look like they have been hit by a ball-peen hammer several hundred times, the truck still drives perfectly. The glass is intact, the engine runs like a dream, and the interior still has that new car smell. David is shocked when his insurance adjuster calls 3 days later and says, "David, we have finished the preliminary evaluation, and we are declaring the vehicle a total loss." David cannot wrap his head around it. How can a vehicle that is essentially brand new and fully functional be headed for the scrap heap? This is the total loss disaster. a phenomenon that has accelerated rapidly in the United States over the last few years. To understand why this is happening to people like David in 2026, we have to look at the total loss threshold. In many states, this is a statutory percentage. For example, in Alabama, the threshold is 75%. In Iowa, it is 50%. But in many other states, insurance companies use what is called the total loss formula. The formula is simple but devastating. Cost of repair plus salvage value must be less than the actual cash value of the vehicle. If the sum of the repair and the salvage bid exceeds the value of the car, the insurance company will pull the plug. In 2026, the variables in this equation have shifted dramatically. Historically, salvage value, what a wrecked car is worth at auction for its parts, was a relatively small number, perhaps 10 to 15% of the car's value. But today, with the global shortage of high-grade semiconductors and the massive demand for lithium-ion battery components and specialized aluminum alloys, salvage values have skyrocketed. For David's pickup truck, which might have an actual cash value of $70,000, the salvage bid from a national auction house could be as high as $35,000. If the hail repair estimate comes in at $36,000, David's truck is totaled. The math is cold and indifferent. $36,000 in repairs plus $35,000 in salvage equals $71,000, which is more than the truck is worth. The insurance company would rather pay David the $70,000 and recoup $35,000 at auction than pay $36,000 for a repair that might lead to further supplements. David now faces a series of complex potential outcomes. If he accepts the total loss settlement, the insurance company takes the truck, pays off his remaining loan balance, and gives him whatever equity is left. However, because of the 2026 automotive market dynamics, David might find that $70,000 doesn't actually buy a comparable replacement truck. Interest rates on new auto loans might be higher than when he originally bought the truck, or the specific trim package he wants might have a 6-month waiting list. This is the first trap of the total loss. The settlement check doesn't always equal the cost of being made whole in the current market. Case studies from recent storms in the Midwest show that many owners are choosing to retain their salvage. This means David tells the insurance company he wants to keep the truck. The company pays him the $70,000 minus his deductible and minus that $35,000 salvage bid. David gets a check for roughly $34,000 and keeps the dented truck. But this path is paved with technical and legal landmines. In almost every state, a totaled vehicle must be issued a salvage title. This title brand is permanent. It warns every future buyer and every future insurance company that this vehicle was once deemed a total loss. If David chooses to keep the truck and use the $34,000 to fix it, he must then navigate the rebuilt title process. This involves a state-level safety inspection to prove the vehicle is roadworthy. While hail damage is cosmetic and doesn't usually affect safety, the bureaucratic hurdles in 2026 have become more stringent. Some states now require a full ADAS recalibration certificate and a certified structural integrity report before they will issue a rebuilt brand. Furthermore, David's potential outcomes for future insurance are severely limited. Most major carriers will only offer liability coverage on a rebuilt title. If David gets into a collision a year later, he has no coverage for his own vehicle. He is essentially self-insuring a $35,000 asset. But let's look at the step-by-step process of how David can fight back if he thinks the valuation is too low. This is called the right of appraisal, a clause found in most standard American auto policies. If David believes his truck is actually worth $75,000 instead of $70,000, he can invoke this clause. This triggers a formal process where David hires an independent appraiser, the insurance company hires their own, and the two experts try to agree on a value. If they can't agree, an umpire is called in to make a final binding decision. In 2026, with used car prices being so volatile, independent appraisals are uncovering valuation gaps of $3,000 to $8,000 on high-end vehicles. Another critical factor David must consider is the unrepaired damage trap. Imagine David decides not to fix the hail damage at all. He keeps the truck and the $34,000 check, deciding he can live with the dents. 2 months later, he is involved in a fender bender that damages his front bumper and grille. When the insurance adjuster comes out for the new claim, they will see the unrepaired hail damage. Under many 2026 policy guidelines, the insurance company can deny or significantly reduce the payout for the new damage because the vehicle already had a pre-existing loss that was never remediated. They argue that the value of the vehicle was already compromised. and they are not responsible for adding more money to a vehicle that the owner chose to leave in a damaged state. Let's dive deeper into the total loss threshold nuances by region. In states like Texas, the law doesn't set a hard percentage. It uses the total loss formula. This gives insurance companies more flexibility, but also creates more room for negotiation. In contrast, in a state like Florida, if the damage hits 80%, the car is legally totaled, and there is very little room for debate. If David lived in a formula state, his shop could potentially work with him to find used or reconditioned parts for things like the hood or moldings to bring the repair cost down just enough to stay under the total loss threshold. This is a delicate dance between the shop, the owner, and the adjuster, and it requires a high level of trust and transparency. Step by step, if you find yourself in David's shoes, you should. First, request the full valuation report from the insurance company. Check every single option listed. Did they account for your upgraded leather? Did they include the expensive ceramic coating you had applied? Second, look at the comparable vehicles they used to set your value. If they are comparing your garage-kept truck to 3 trucks sitting on a wholesale lot in another city, those aren't true comps. Third, get a second opinion on the repair costs from a shop that specializes in saving vehicles from the total loss threshold. Sometimes a more experienced PDR technician can repair a roof that a less experienced tech would have replaced, potentially saving the vehicle from the scrap heap. The financial ripple effects of a total loss extend far into the future. For many Americans, a vehicle is their second largest asset. When that asset is suddenly devalued or liquidated by a 20-minute weather event, the impact on a household's net worth is real. We are seeing a trend in 2026 where gap insurance is becoming a mandatory discussion for anyone financing a vehicle in a hail-prone region. Gap insurance covers the difference between what you owe on your loan and the actual cash value of the car if it is totaled. Without it, David could have been in a situation where his truck was totaled, the insurance paid $70,000, but he still owed $75,000 to the bank. He would have had to write a $5,000 check just to stop owning a car he no longer has. As David weighs his options, he realizes that the battle isn't just about ice and metal. It's about data and documentation. But there is another hidden cost lurking in the shadows of the repair process. One that hits you every single day you don't have your vehicle. We are talking about the rental car crisis. In the wake of a major storm, rental cars vanish from the market within hours. If your repair takes 3 months because of parts backlogs, and your policy only covers 30 days of rental, who pays the rest? In the next part, we are going to break down the logistics of the long wait. We will show you the hidden loss of use, claims that can put money back in your pocket, and we'll reveal the parts availability secrets that the manufacturers don't want you to know. If you think the repair bill is the only thing you have to worry about, you haven't seen the cost of a 90-day rental at 2026 prices. The clock is ticking, and every day your car sits in a shop is costing you more than you think. Imagine a busy mother in Phoenix named Jennifer. It is April 2026, and a freak spring storm has just left her family minivan looking like it was caught in a crossfire of marbles. Jennifer handles the insurance claim promptly, but when she calls the local repair shop, they give her a date that feels like a typo. Her car cannot even be seen for an initial teardown for 45 days. And the actual repair? That could take another 2 months. Jennifer looks at her insurance policy and sees she has rental car coverage, but there is a catch. Her policy provides $30 a day for a maximum of 30 days. In the 2026 rental market, $30 doesn't even cover the base rate for a compact car, let alone a minivan large enough for her 3 children. This is the logistics of the long wait, and it is a hidden cost that can drain a family's savings faster than the actual hail damage. The rental car crisis is a direct byproduct of the massive scale of American hail events. When a storm hits a metro area, thousands of people lose their primary transportation at the exact same moment. This creates a localized supply shock. Historically, rental agencies like Hertz and Enterprise maintain a fleet based on average daily demand. They are not prepared for a sudden influx of 5,000 claims in a single zip code. In 2026, we have seen cases where rental rates for a standard sedan jumped from $45 a day to $95 a day within 48 hours of a major storm. If Jennifer is out of a vehicle for 90 days, and her insurance only covers the first 30, she is responsible for the remaining 60 days out of pocket. At 2026 prices, that is a $5,700 bill, just to keep her family moving while her car sits in a parking lot waiting for a technician. Step by step, the delay is caused by a 3-headed monster: labor shortages, parts backlogs, and shop capacity. Let's start with parts. In 2026, the automotive supply chain is still dealing with the complexities of just-in-time manufacturing for specialized components. If Jennifer's minivan needs a specific trim piece for the sliding door or a specialized roof molding, that part might be on a national backorder. Manufacturers are prioritizing parts for new vehicle assembly lines over repair parts for older models. Historical trends show that during peak hail seasons, the wait time for OEM glass and specialized aluminum hoods can exceed 12 weeks. If a shop starts a repair and then realizes a clip or a bracket is broken and out of stock, the car sits in the bay, taking up space, while the clock on the rental car continues to tick. Next is the labor factor. Master PDR technicians are a finite resource. While there are thousands of technicians in the United States, only a small percentage are truly qualified to work on the high-strength steels and complex aluminum alloys of 2026 models. When a catastrophic storm hits, these elite technicians are spread thin. A shop might have the physical space to hold 50 cars, but if they only have 2 master technicians, the throughput is incredibly slow. Jennifer is not just waiting for her turn in the shop. She is waiting for a specific set of hands that knows how to massage the metal of her specific make and model without cracking the paint. This leads us to a concept that most Americans have never heard of: loss of use. In many states, if you are not at fault for the damage, which is always the case with a weather event, you may be entitled to compensation for the time you were deprived of your vehicle. While this is most commonly applied in third-party liability claims, such as when someone hits your car, some 2026 insurance endorsements are beginning to offer more robust loss-of-use protections for comprehensive claims. Even if your policy doesn't explicitly cover it, understanding how to document your actual financial loss during the wait can be a powerful tool in your potential outcomes when negotiating with an insurance carrier. Case studies from 2025 show that owners who documented their Uber receipts, private car rental costs, and even the lost wages from not having a vehicle were sometimes able to secure higher overall settlements. Imagine if Jennifer's vehicle is an electric model. The logistics become even more complicated. Many standard body shops in 2026 still lack the specialized clean rooms and high-voltage safety equipment required to work on certain EV structural components. If a hailstone damages the area near a high-voltage cable or a battery coolant line, the car must be sent to a certified EV repair center. These centers often have even longer wait times and higher labor rates. In a recent case study from a storm in California, an EV owner faced a 6-month wait for a specialized roof replacement. The rental car cost alone exceeded the actual value of the repair work. So, how do you mitigate these logistical costs? First, you must ask your shop about their parts procurement strategy. Do they order all parts up front before they even pull your car into a bay? A shop that performs a pre-teardown is vastly superior. In this process, they spend 2 hours taking the trim off to identify every broken clip and bracket. Then they put it back together and let you drive the car while they wait for the parts to arrive. This ensures that once your car goes in for the actual repair, the parts are already sitting on the shelf. Second, check your policy's rental reimbursement limits before the storm hits. In 2026, a policy with a $1,500 total limit is essentially useless for a major hail claim. You want a policy that provides a high daily rate or a longer duration. But what if you can't wait? Some people choose to take the insurance check and trade the car in as-is to a dealership. This is a common move for those who need a functional vehicle immediately for work. However, the math is rarely in the consumer's favor. Dealerships use a hail deduction formula that is often far more aggressive than the insurance estimate. If the insurance estimate says the damage is worth $6,000, the dealer might deduct $10,000 from your trade-in value to account for the risk they take in repairing and reselling the car. You end up losing $4,000 in equity just to save time. As Jennifer sits in her kitchen, looking at her calendar and her mounting Uber receipts, she realizes that the cost of the hail is a moving target. It is the deductible, it is the rental gap, it is the lost time, and it is the stress of navigating a system that is currently overwhelmed. But there is another factor that can turn a long wait into a permanent disaster. What happens if the shop you chose, the one that promised a faster turnaround, goes out of business in the middle of your repair? Or worse, what if they finish the job, but the 2026 electronic systems in your car start throwing error codes 2 weeks later? In the next part of this masterclass, we are going to look at the post-repair fallout. We will dive into the technical world of electronic health checks and why your car's brain might still be suffering even if the body looks perfect. We will also reveal the warranty ghosting phenomenon and how to ensure you are protected if your repair fails a year down the road. You think the struggle ends when you pick up your keys? For many, that is exactly when the second wave of problems begins. We are going to show you how to perform a post-repair audit that can save you from a catastrophic mechanical failure. Imagine a young professional in Charlotte named Alex. It is October 2026 and Alex is finally picking up his luxury SUV after a grueling 10-week repair process following a summer storm. The car looks spectacular under the shop's delivery lights. The hood is smooth, the roof is flawless, and the fresh wax makes the metallic paint pop. Alex signs the final paperwork, shakes the manager's hand and drives away. But 3 days later, as he is cruising down the I-70, he hears a faint whistling sound coming from the sunroof. That evening, he realizes his wireless charging pad is no longer working, and his blind spot monitoring system keeps throwing an intermittent error message on the dashboard. Alex has just entered the post-repair fallout, a phase where the technical complexity of modern American vehicles often clashes with the reality of high-volume repair shops. To avoid being in Alex's position, you must understand how to conduct a post-repair audit. In 2026, a vehicle is no longer just a collection of metal panels. It is an interconnected ecosystem of sensors, modules, and delicate wiring. When a shop performs a hail repair, they don't just touch the exterior. They drop headliners, remove door panels, and disconnect batteries. This intrusion into the vehicle's nervous system creates dozens of failure points that have nothing to do with the original dents. Historical trends in the repair industry show that nearly 15% of major hail repairs result in a return visit to the shop within the first 30 days for non-cosmetic issues. The first step of your audit should be a digital health check. Every modern vehicle since roughly 2022 is equipped with an onboard diagnostic system that tracks thousands of data points. When you pick up your car, you should request a copy of the post-repair scan report. This is a document generated by a specialized diagnostic tool that proves every electronic module is communicating correctly. If the shop cannot provide this, or if they tell you that the dashboard light will just go away after a few miles, you should not accept the vehicle. In Alex's case, the shop likely forgot to recalibrate the sunroof motor after dropping the headliner, or they pinched a wire for the blind spot sensor when reassembling the side mirrors. These are not minor inconveniences. They are indications that the vehicle's safety and convenience systems are compromised. Next, you must perform a functional stress test. This is where you manually operate every single component that was touched during the R&I process. You should open and close the sunroof 5 times in a row. Listen for grinding, clicking, or that dreaded wind whistle which indicates the seal was not seated correctly. Check every door handle, every window switch, and every interior light. If the shop removed the shark fin antenna to repair the roof, test your GPS and satellite radio. We have seen case studies where technicians accidentally snap the fragile fiber optic cables for the infotainment system, leading to a $3,000 replacement bill that the owner didn't discover until they were hundreds of miles away. The third pillar of the audit is the water leak test. Hail repair involves breaking the factory seals on windows, sunroofs, and antennas. Before you consider the job done, take the car through a high-pressure touchless car wash. If you see a single drop of water on the headliner or hear a gurgle in the door panels, the repair has failed. Improperly seated belt moldings or sunroof drains are the leading cause of secondary mold damage in hail-repaired vehicles. In 2026, insurance companies are becoming increasingly strict about secondary damage claims. If your car leaks because of a poor repair and you don't catch it for 3 months, the resulting mold might not be covered under your original claim, leaving you with a massive out-of-pocket sanitation bill. Now let's talk about the warranty ghosting phenomenon. In the aftermath of a massive storm, many shops offer a lifetime warranty on their work. But a warranty is only as strong as the company that stands behind it. In 2026, we are seeing a rise in managed repair networks, where a national company leases space from a local mechanic for 90 days to process hail claims. When they leave, the local mechanic has no legal obligation to honor the hail shop's warranty. If your paint begins to delaminate or peel a year later, and that pop-up shop is gone, you are left with no recourse. This is why you must verify that the warranty is backed by a permanent physical facility with a track record of at least 5 years in that specific community. There is also the conflict between the shop warranty and the manufacturer warranty. This is a critical point that many Americans miss. If a third-party shop performs a repair that involves cutting into the structural pillars or drilling holes in the frame, They may have unknowingly voided parts of your vehicle's factory corrosion or structural warranty. If your 2026 Ford or Chevy develops rust in 5 years because of a hole drilled during a hail repair, the manufacturer will deny the claim, pointing to the unauthorized repair work. To prevent this, you should ensure that the shop follows OEM repair procedures. These are the step-by-step instructions provided by the manufacturer on exactly how to disassemble and reassemble the vehicle. Ask for a copy of the OEM procedures used for your specific model. A professional shop will have these printed out and attached to the work order. Imagine if Alex had been more proactive. Instead of just looking at the shiny paint, he could have checked the panel gaps, using a simple digital caliper or even a steady hand. Manufacturers have strict tolerances for the gaps between a hood and a fender, usually measured in millimeters. If one side of the hood has a 5 mm gap and the other has an 8 mm gap, the hood was not aligned correctly after being removed for repair. This misalignment can cause long-term wear on hinges and latches, and in some cases, it can interfere with the deployment of pedestrian safety sensors located in the front bumper. We must also consider the over-travel of the PDR tools. When a technician is pushing a dent from the inside, they are putting pressure on the underside of the paint. If they push too hard or too fast, they can create microcracking in the clear coat. To the naked eye, it looks perfect. But under a specialized high magnification scope or after one winter of road salt and freezing temperatures, those microcracks expand. This leads to what is known as checking, where the paint looks like it has tiny spiderwebs in it. Case studies show that this type of failure often takes 12 to 18 months to manifest. This is why a post-repair audit should also include a high-resolution photo gallery of the finished panels, kept in your records as a baseline in case of future paint failure. Step by step, your post-repair protection plan looks like this. First, the digital health scan. Second, the functional stress test of all moving parts. Third, the high-pressure water test. Fourth, the panel gap alignment check. Fifth, the documentation of warranty and OEM procedures. If any of these steps reveal an issue, do not take the car. Once you drive off the lot and sign the final release, your leverage over the shop drops by 90%. Alex's story is a cautionary tale about the difference between a car that looks fixed and a car that is actually restored. But as we move into the final stages of this masterclass, we have to address the elephant in the room. What if the damage is so severe, or the market is so volatile, that the best financial move isn't to fix the car at all? What if there is a way to turn a hail disaster into a strategic financial pivot? In the next part, we are going to explore the cash-out strategy. We will look at the legalities of keeping the insurance money without repairing the vehicle, the impact on your future insurability, and how to calculate the break-even point for your specific loan. We are also going to reveal the diminished value secret that could add thousands of dollars to your pocket, even if you don't fix a single dent. Are you ready to see the numbers that the insurance companies hope you never calculate? The final pieces of the hail cost puzzle are about to fall into place. Imagine a freelance consultant in Seattle named Marcus. It is November 2026, and Marcus is looking at a settlement offer from his insurance company for $8,400. His car, a reliable 2023 sedan, was caught in an unusual Pacific Northwest hail event. Marcus has a choice to make. He can send the car to a shop for 3 weeks, or he can take the check and continue driving the vehicle with the dents. For many Americans, this is known as the cash-out strategy. It is the moment you decide to prioritize liquidity over aesthetics. But before Marcus signs that release, he needs to understand the intricate legal and financial web he is about to enter. This isn't just free money. It is a strategic maneuver that carries long-term potential outcomes for his insurance profile and his net worth. The first thing Marcus must check is the lien holder status. In the United States, if you have an active auto loan or lease, the insurance check is typically not made out to you alone. It is usually a two-party check made out to both you and your bank or credit union. This is because the vehicle is the collateral for the loan. The lender has a vested interest in ensuring that the collateral is maintained and repaired to its full value. Historically, if Marcus tries to deposit a two-party check without the lender's endorsement, he could face significant banking hurdles or even be in technical default of his loan agreement. Case studies from 2025 show that some lenders will only endorse the check if Marcus provides proof that the repairs have been completed at a certified facility. If Marcus owns the car outright, however, the choice is entirely his. If Marcus is the sole owner, taking the cash can seem like a win. He has $8,000 in his pocket and a car that still runs. But he must consider the pre-existing damage rule. By cashing out, Marcus is effectively notifying the insurance world that his car is damaged. This data is entered into a central database like LexisNexis or ISO Claim Search. If Marcus is in an accident 6 months from now that totals the car, the insurance company will deduct that $8,400 from his total loss payout. They will not pay for the same damage twice. This means Marcus hasn't actually gained $8,000. He has simply accelerated a portion of his car's future value into the present. Furthermore, Marcus must navigate the diminished value claim. This is a separate financial recovery that is often overlooked. Even if Marcus repairs the car perfectly, the vehicle has lost market value because it now has a major claim on its history. In 2026, with the transparency of the used car market, a hail-damaged history can lower a vehicle's resale value by 15 to 25%. In certain states, Marcus can file a claim for this loss in value. This is not for the cost of the repair, but for the inherent loss of worth. For a $30,000 car, a diminished value settlement could be an additional $3,000 to $5,000. If Marcus cashes out the repair and the diminished value, he could walk away with $13,000. But he must be prepared to prove this loss with a professional appraisal. Step by step, calculating the break-even point for a cash-out involves: first, determining the current trade-in value of the car if it were perfect. Second, getting a quote from a dealer for the car as is with the dents. Third, comparing that gap to the insurance settlement. If the dealer is going to hit him with a $10,000 deduction but the insurance only paid $8,000, Marcus is losing $2,000 in the transaction. However, if the insurance payout is higher than the market's hail penalty, the cash-out becomes a viable financial pivot. Let's look at a case study of a driver named Chloe in Minneapolis. Chloe had a 5-year-old SUV with high mileage. The hail damage was estimated at $6,000, but the car's total value was only $10,000. Because Chloe didn't care about the dents and planned to drive the car until it reached 300,000 miles, she chose to cash out. She used the $6,000 to pay off the remaining balance on her loan and invested the rest. For Chloe, the utility of the vehicle remained the same, but her monthly expenses vanished. This is a prime example of using a hail disaster to improve a personal balance sheet, provided the owner has no intention of selling the vehicle in the near future. But there is a trap called the insurance surcharge. While hail is a comprehensive claim, which usually doesn't raise your rates like an at-fault collision, it does go on your record. In 2026, insurance companies are using more aggressive risk modeling. If you live in a zip code that has had 3 major hail events in 5 years, and you have filed claims for all of them, the insurance company may categorize you as a high-risk client. They might not raise your rate specifically for the claim, but they might remove your claims-free discount or increase the base premium for your entire region. This is a cost that Marcus will pay every month for the next 3 to 5 years. Imagine Marcus also considers the tax implications. In the United States, insurance settlements for physical damage to a personal vehicle are generally not considered taxable income because they are meant to make you whole. However, if Marcus uses the car for business and has been depreciating it on his taxes, the cash-out could potentially trigger a recapture event or affect his basis in the property. In 2026, the IRS has increased its focus on gig economy workers and independent contractors. If Marcus is a 1099 consultant, he must consult with a tax professional to ensure that an $8,000 check doesn't lead to a surprise bill in April. The final piece of the cash-out puzzle is the safety and functionality audit. Marcus might think the damage is just cosmetic, but as we discussed in earlier parts, hail can affect the seals around the windshield and the sensors in the roof. If Marcus cashes out and ignores a small crack in the windshield seal, he could end up with a moldy interior or a fried electrical system 6 months later. The cost to fix those issues will be entirely out of his own pocket. Step by step, the prudent path for a cash-out is: first, have a master PDR technician perform a safety-only inspection. Have them ensure the glass, lights, and sensors are functional. Second, get a professional diminished value appraisal. Third, contact the lender to see their specific requirements for endorsing the check. Fourth, calculate the long-term impact on your resale value. If you can't check all these boxes, the cash-out might be a short-term gain for a long-term loss. Marcus realizes that he is standing at a crossroads. The hailstorm was the catalyst, but his next move will determine his financial trajectory for the next several years. He has the data on the matrix, the knowledge of the metallurgy, the warnings about the chasers, and now the math for the cash-out. He is no longer a victim of the storm. He is a manager of an asset. But there is one last thing Marcus needs to know. What happens when the next storm hits? In an era of increasingly volatile weather, how do you protect your vehicle so you never have to deal with this nightmare again? Is it possible to hail-proof your life in America? In the final part of this masterclass, we are going to look at the future of hail prevention. We will review the latest 2026 protective technologies, from portable hail shelters to impact-resistant car covers. We will also reveal the insurance optimization strategy that can lower your deductible to zero without raising your premium. The cycle of damage and repair can be broken. Are you ready to stop reacting to the weather and start outsmarting it? The masterclass concludes with the ultimate guide to permanent protection. Imagine a homeowner in Oklahoma City named Kevin. It is 2026 and Kevin has watched his neighbors go through the grueling process we have documented over the last 9 segments. He's seen the 12-week wait times, the total loss heartbreaks, and the battle over supplements. Kevin drives a 2026 electric pickup truck, a vehicle with a massive glass roof and aluminum body panels that would cost a fortune to repair. Instead of waiting for the next storm to dictate his financial future, Kevin has invested in a multi-layered defense system. This is the shift from reactive repair to proactive prevention, and in the volatile climate of the United States today, it is the only way to truly control the cost of hail damage. The first line of defense in 2026 is the emergence of high-tech, impact-resistant vehicle covers. Gone are the days of throwing a moving blanket or a piece of carpet over your car. Modern solutions include inflatable hail protection systems that can be activated via a smartphone app. Imagine Kevin receives a National Weather Service alert on his phone while he is at work. With one tap, he activates a portable system stored in his truck bed. A high-speed blower inflates a multi-chambered air cushion that covers every upward-facing surface of the vehicle. Historical trends in product testing show that these air cushion systems can dissipate the energy of a baseball-sized hailstone falling at terminal velocity, reducing a potential $15,000 repair to zero. The cost of such a system in 2026 typically ranges from $800 to $1,500, which is often less than a single insurance deductible. For those who park at home, the 2026 market has seen a surge in hail-rated permanent and semi-permanent structures. If Kevin's garage is full, he might look into a cantilevered carport designed specifically for high wind and high impact resistance. Unlike traditional metal carports that can be shredded by extreme weather, these new structures use polycarbonate panels that are rated for hail up to 2 inches in diameter. Case studies from recent storms in the Dallas-Fort Worth area showed that vehicles parked under hail-rated carports sustained zero damage, while cars parked just 10 feet away were totaled. When you consider that a carport might cost $3,000 to install, the return on investment is realized the very first time a storm passes through. Step by step, optimizing your physical protection involves: first, assessing your most frequent parking locations. If you work in an open lot, a portable inflatable system is your best potential outcome. Second, checking the impact rating of any structure you build. Look for UL or ASTM certifications specifically mentioning hail impact. Third, ensuring the system can be deployed in under 5 minutes. Hailstorms often provide very little lead time, and a protection system that is too complex to set up is a system that won't be used. Now, let's talk about the insurance optimization strategy. This is the financial side of prevention. In 2026, many American insurance carriers have introduced vanishing deductibles, or hail-specific endorsements. Kevin has opted for a policy that rewards proactive behavior. Because he can prove he owns a certified hail protection cover, his insurance company has lowered his comprehensive deductible from $1,000 to $250 without increasing his monthly premium. They view Kevin as a lower risk because he has taken steps to mitigate the severity of a potential claim. Furthermore, you should investigate the full glass coverage endorsement. As we discussed in Part 2, the cost of replacing and calibrating a modern windshield can exceed $1,500. In many states, you can add a $0 deductible glass rider for as little as $10 a month. This ensures that if a hailstone cracks your glass, you can have it replaced and recalibrated immediately without waiting for a full claim adjustment or paying a high deductible. For a vehicle like Kevin's with a panoramic roof, this endorsement is not just a luxury, it is a financial necessity. Another critical 2026 trend is the use of predictive analytics in personal weather stations. Kevin has a smart home weather system that monitors local atmospheric pressure and radar feeds. This system doesn't just tell him it might rain. It uses machine learning to predict the probability of hail at his specific GPS coordinates. This gives him a 15-minute head start over the standard emergency alerts broadcast to the general public. In the world of hail, 15 minutes is the difference between a protected vehicle and a totaled one. Let's look at a case study of a fleet manager in Kansas who managed 40 delivery vans. In 2025, they faced a catastrophic loss when 30 of their vans were damaged in a single event, leading to a $500,000 repair bill and months of downtime. In 2026, they invested in a rapid deployment hail canopy system for their main lot. When the next storm hit, they were able to pull the entire fleet under cover in 12 minutes. The total investment in the canopy was $60,000, barely 10% of their previous repair costs. This demonstrates that for businesses and families alike, the cost of prevention is a fraction of the cost of repair. As we conclude this 10-part masterclass, we have to look at the big picture. Understanding vehicle hail damage repair costs in America is about more than just knowing the price of a dent. It is about understanding the metallurgy of your car, the economics of the insurance industry, the tactics of the repair shops, and the logistics of the global supply chain. We have seen how a single storm can trigger a chain reaction of financial and technical challenges that can last for months or even years. You now have the tools to navigate this landscape. You know how to read a PDR matrix, how to spot a storm chaser, how to fight a lowball total loss valuation, and how to audit a repair to ensure your safety systems are functional. You understand the supplement game and the cash-out strategy. Most importantly, you understand that your vehicle is not just a mode of transport. It is a complex asset that requires a sophisticated management strategy. Imagine Kevin looking out his window as the 2026 storm season reaches its peak. He hears the thunder, and he sees the dark clouds rolling in over the Oklahoma plains. But he isn't panicked. His truck is covered, his insurance is optimized, and his data is ready. He has moved from a position of vulnerability to a position of strength. This is the goal of this masterclass: to give every American vehicle owner the knowledge to protect their property and their pocketbook from the hidden costs of the climate. The era of being blindsided by repair costs is over. Whether you are driving a classic Corvette, a modern electric SUV, or a hardworking pickup truck, the principles we have discussed here remain constant. Stay informed, stay proactive, and never accept an estimate at face value. The weather may be unpredictable, but your financial response to it should be anything but. If you found value in this deep dive, your next step is to pull out your current insurance declarations page. Look at your comprehensive deductible. Look at your rental car limits. Look at your glass coverage. Compare those numbers to the real-world costs we have broken down in this series. Are you truly covered for a 2026 reality, or are you carrying a policy designed for a world that no longer exists? The time to make those changes is today, before the next cloud appears on the horizon. This has been the masterclass on vehicle hail damage. Stay safe, stay smart, and keep your factory finish intact.